Tracy Marie Root was born on July 2, 1985 in Allentown, PA, and currently lives in Jonestown, PA. Her highest rank achieved was Sergeant First Class in the Army. Root lives with her spouse Travis Hess and 4 children, Madison, Mackenzie, Annabella, and Daryl. Root's parents were Angelo and Tina biologically. Her father later remarried to Maria. Her father was originally a truck driver but then enlisted in the Navy part-time as a CB. After that, he enlisted into the Army and went full-time. Root's father is still currently employed as active duty National Guard. Maria works as an insurance sales agent. Root also has 5 siblings, 2 of which are biological and 3 are step-siblings. Her brother Tom is currently a naval officer and is stationed in Rhode Island. Her family has always been pro-military. Going into the military was not necessarily expected, but it was accepted. Root attended William Allen High School in Allentown, PA, and later enrolled in Hack Lebanon campus, where she took some online courses after her service. Throughout her high school career, Root took numerous honors and AP classes. However, she felt burnt out and wasn't quite sure what she wanted to do. She recalls her father throwing out the idea that she could enlist into the National Guard until one day she complied, even though she never intended to go into the military before, and filled out a packet. After that, Root's military career started moving, and she enlisted into the Army before her senior year. Root recalls going to drills once a week in August of 2002 to become a part of the unit and start to learn how things work despite still being in high school. During pre-basic training, she learned military time, the alphabet, land navigational tools, and other basic Army information. Once she graduated high school, Root left for basic training at Fort Jackson, South Carolina in 2003. After training at Fort Jackson for about 9 weeks, she was moved up to Fort Lee, Virginia, where she received advanced individual training, which was supplied for 8 weeks, where she learned how to work different systems and later expanded to an IT section. Throughout her training, Root mentioned it was rather easy to form friendships, which was said to be the better part of her training. She said that being in such a different situation allowed for her to connect with people on that level and learn about things they have in common.
In basic training, it was actually easy because it was such a different situation. It kind of sucked a lot of days. You're dirty, you're sweaty, you're not allowed to wear makeup. You had to have your hair pulled back tight or cut short. And it was just, you were all embracing that suck together. So it was, you were able to bond on that level. So
also in basic training, Root described it as being physically and mentally challenged in ways she never anticipated she could push herself through. She had to rely on complete strangers to complete each task, and if they didn't make it through as a team, they all failed. Additionally, Root stated that group punishment was a difficult part of military lifestyle to adjust to. She mentioned that if during the night drill sergeants did spot checks and found someone, for instance, in the shower, they would wake everyone up to toe the kill line and what Root described as smoke them.
Probably in those beginning years, it was the group punishment. So one person messes up, you all mess up. So we'd be sleeping in the middle of the night, and it was an open, they called it open bay. So it's a huge room, just bunk beds, certain feet apart, and you had a wall locker. And then they had, the center of the floor had usually whatever your mascot was. Like we were the Bravo Bulldogs. So they'd have, something painted real pretty in the middle of the floor, and they had what was called a kill line. You weren't supposed to step past that kill line. So there was certain rules. You weren't allowed to shower after a certain time. You could only shower when the drill sergeants told you. And then they might give you 15 minutes, and you had to get 35 females through showers in that time frame. So sometimes in the middle of the night, drill sergeants might come up and just randomly do spot checks and see. And if they caught somebody in the shower, now we all had to be woken up in the middle of the night, and we'd all have to toe the line, this kill line, and then what they called smoke us. So push-ups, sit-ups, like any kind of physical things to make us suffer, to pay, to show like you follow the rules. And if one person's not going to be a part of the team and mess up, then you're all going to pay for it. So that was very frustrating because I enjoyed my sleep, and it was many times that we were woken up to that.
Aside from the team building exercises, Root learned how to fire weapons, which at the time was typically M16s, and how to throw grenades in closed courses. With being National Guard, Root was only part-time, so she returned to the Armory in Allentown, where she enlisted and found a job. Originally, she had planned to be drill status, but since the unit was deployed in Afghanistan, she was supply background. They had temporarily hired her to be the full-time supply sergeant, so she came back and then worked full-time in Allentown. Following that, in 2007, Root was deployed in Balad, Iraq, which was also called LSA Anaconda at the time, where she served as combat service support. The entire deployment lasted 12 months, including 3 months in Fort Bragg beforehand. Root states that they were lucky enough that they remained inside the compound the whole time and didn't have to go out in convoy. Any of the online units that were in FOBs or foreign operating bases would convoy out to them if they needed support. However, the base was still frequently attacked.
She was surrounded by farm fields, where she could sit with her rifle and look for any enemies who would attempt to fire a rocket at the base. As a guard, Root would keep the watchful eye out and get rotated in and out just about every 2 hours to avoid getting fatigued. Since the base was attacked just about every day, Root stated that if they heard oncoming fire, they would shelter in place or relocate to one of many concrete bunkers surrounded the base. When asked what scared her during deployment, Root stated she felt uneasy and a little frightful anytime she traveled and left the base. A typical day on base for Root consisted of getting at the office around 8 a.m. and eating breakfast. They were able to have dorm-sized refrigerators and a microwave so they could make cereal or ramen. While at work, Root handled a lot of the inventory and was responsible for all the computer equipment that they had, so she would keep track of serial numbers for receipts and take care of any paperwork. She would continue on to lunch and keep doing that throughout the day. Root typically worked about a 12-hour shift. Although Root did spend the majority of her time working, there were other recreational activities that she had access to while she was off duty. Watching movies was said to be a very common thing to do while off duty, since many had portable DVD players. They also had an MWR, meaning Morale, Welfare, and Recreation. In MWR, there are ping pong tables, Guitar Hero competitions, and other entertaining pastimes. One of which that was available to soldiers was an outdoor swimming pool. Root found this rather humorous since they had the opportunity to go swimming in a combat zone.
We were one of the few. They actually had an outdoor swimming pool on the base. So that was different because you're in a combat zone, but you had the ability to go swimming.
In the duration of her time at Ballard, Root kept in touch with those back at home through email and writing letters since cell phones were not allowed at the time. She could also use calling cards and make phone calls, although she said it was hard since there was always a delay. While there, Root stated that the friendships she had deepened, and she had also formed a relationship there, who a couple years after she had been home, she married. Currently, however, Root doesn't stay in touch with many of these people she served with. Furthermore, Root also went on to provide aid to victims of Hurricane Katrina and was convoyed down there for 3 days. She recalls handing out food and water and getting to interact with some of those people. As a female in the Army, Root said that many felt the need to prove themselves, that they can do the job and they can work hard as well. Root was the only female in her section, but there were never any issues with that. Although, when Root achieved Soldier of the Year board in 2010, she was pregnant, and the main sergeant major of her unit had told another female that he didn't know she was pregnant, and he thought she was just fat. Root felt rather hurt by this, and she felt it was rather ignorant too.
Later, I found out that the command sergeant major of our unit had actually told somebody else, another female, he didn't know I was pregnant, he just thought I was fat. So I think some of that stuff, this was the first time I think he had been in a unit that allowed females, because at the time there were still units, it was male only, you weren't allowed to be in there.
Root was a sergeant first class, which is an E7 rank. She stated that one of the more difficult duties of being a sergeant was dealing with other people's personal issues and still trying to get them to focus at work. The most people she oversaw was 4. Ultimately, Root's service concluded because of medical issues, and the Army deemed she was not medically fit to continue to serve. Readjusting to normal life for Root was relatively difficult, although she interviewed for a position over the phone back home, which she got, and that helped her. Root is currently part of the VFW, however, she is not on active duty. Throughout her military career, Root achieved numerous awards and medals, such as the Meritorious Service Medal, Army Achievement Medal, Army Commendation Medal, Humanitarian Service Award, and many more, along with the winning Soldier of the Year Award in 2010, as previously mentioned. That was an honor that each section had to nominate 1 or 2 of the best people that stood out and performed exceptionally. Root stated that it meant a great deal to her, especially being the only female in this section and having people view her as more than that she had potential. In conclusion, military life for Root, as being part of the 213th Area Support Group, opened a door to numerous opportunities and exposed her to all types of people and situations. She learned how to work hard and be persistent, as well as to absorb everything she can and take advantage of opportunities and whatever life has to offer. Root still bleeds deep for the military. She is amazed at the amount of people that would risk it all to enlist, and she finds it truly inspiring. For all she has done for our country, including serving in the Army at the Balad Air Base in Iraq, we thank you, Sergeant Root, for your service.